IOC's strong corporate governance and ethics has made it a force functioning with transparency, integrity and accountability. With Sri Lanka propelling itself on the road to development and prosperity, Lanka IOC has a major role as an integrated energy company playing a national role in oil security. Our resilience and foresight will help improve the Sri Lankan lives and foster change in the transport industry of today and tomorrow. We believe that our company should be responsible to the society in which it works and the environment in which it operates. Lanka IOC, bringing energy to life.
Thank you very much for heeding the call, and we must perforce move on. We have session 2 now, and this is a focus, shall we say, if that's the right word, or a look at the state-owned enterprises. Are they well managed or mismanaged? State-owned. So we will have perspectives from here within Sri Lanka and from outside as well. And we have some speakers or panelists who we will now invite to take their places, and they will be joined by the chairman of the session and the co-chairman as well. So, Dinasha, you will start off.
Would like to invite on stage the chairman for this session, Mr. JPR Karunaratne, who's Assistant Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, as well as being a council member for CMA Sri Lanka. Our co-chairman for this session is Mr. JMUB Jayasekara, who's the chairman of the State Printing Corporation and a council member as well.
And so we also invite now for serving as a speaker on the topic of professional view in managing one of the largest state enterprises in Sri Lanka, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. We are happy to have with us Mr. Susantha Silva, who is the Managing Director thereof, a Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants, therefore FCMA, and Institute of Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka, and also has membership of several professional institutions both here in this country and overseas. He is a graduate of the University of Kelaniya and secured his MBA from the Open University of Malaysia. Currently has a key role as Managing Director of Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. And this is the second time that he is in that role. And he has served as the Regional Director for the African business of a group of companies based in the United Kingdom and has served with multinational companies in different countries. I'm not going to be reading the list because it's fairly long. And next there with him will be?
We'll have Engineer Rohan Seniviratne, who's Additional General Manager with the Ceylon Electricity Board. And he too will be giving us the perspective or a professional view of how to manage one of the largest state enterprises in Sri Lanka. In this instance, that of the CEB, or the Ceylon Electricity Board. He's a chartered electrical engineer with over 30 years of experience in the field of engineering and technology, and is a fellow member of the Institution of Engineering and Technology UK and the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, as well as a member of Engineers Australia. He's an alumnus of the University of Moratuwa. He also earned his Master of Business Administration degree and the postgraduate diploma in computer technology from the University of Colombo, as well as the postgraduate diploma in electric power distribution systems from the University of Trondheim, Norway. He joined CEB in the year 1986 as an electrical engineer and has served in many divisions of the CEB in different capacities. At present, he, as you heard, serves as the Additional General Manager, Distribution Division 4 of the CEB, and he also functioned as the first Project Director of Metro Colombo Urban Development Project, financed by the World Bank for 4 years.
We invite him to take the place on stage, yes. And then we also have Mr. Manoj Gupta, who is the Managing Director of Lanka IOC. Now, Mr. Gupta is a civil engineer with an MBA from the Podar Institute of Management, Jaipur, and with 29 years of experience in the petroleum sector. He's had wide experience in various roles in the Indian Oil Corporation Limited, that's the overall company, India's flagship company and a Fortune 500 global company encompassing retail sales, aviation, and so on. And he spearheaded two strategic and high-volume divisional offices, namely Panipat and Kolkata. As the head of the division, he focused on creating a more enabling and inspiring workplace, leveraging technology and infrastructure augmentation and capacity building of channel partners. His strategic initiative and customer-centric approach has contributed immensely toward the improvement of the look and feel of the brand image. Mr. Gupta. We'll hear more from him about the stuff that I just mentioned in the introduction. And then we have participating remotely.
We'll hear the Sri Lanka Telecom story from the chairman, Mr. Rohan Fernando. He was appointed as Director Chairman of SLT in 2020 in January. He also serves as Director and Chairman of Mobitel Private Limited, eChanneling PLC, and several other key organizations. Mr. Fernando has over 40 years of experience in the tea industry and known as the creator of the global tea brand Heladiv, which is registered in 40 countries. He is a national award winner at the NCE Exports Awards and was selected as Exporter of the Year in 1999. He was also awarded Sri Lankan Entrepreneur of the Year 2015, winning the National Gold Award. So we'll hear from him as we link up with him remotely later on.
Now the chairman will take over at this point and take this whole session forward. So we invite Mr. JPR Karunaratne to take the lectern. Yes.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Lakshmana Arwatwala, President CMA, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, Vice President CMA and President SAFA, all council members of CFA, our distinguished panelists, Mr. Susanta Silva, Managing Director, Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Rohan Senuviratne, Additional General Manager, Ceylon Electricity Board, Mr. Manoj Gupta, Managing Director, Lanka IOC. Of course, Mr. Rohan Fernando, who is joining us virtually, Chairman of Sri Lanka Telecom, and my co-chairman for the session today, Mr. JMUB Jayasekara, Council Member CMA. So let me first welcome our panelists and our co-chairman for this very important session, which is technical session 2 of the day. State-owned enterprises, are they well managed or mismanaged? Of course, we learned a lot during the first session from our distinguished speakers. One of the key elements discussed was transparency, accountability, and the governance. So of course, those three words are very valid when we talk about state-owned enterprises, are they well managed or mismanaged? So if you go back to the history of SOEs in Sri Lanka, dates back to Second World War. During late 1930s and early 1940s, with the establishment of few SOEs for the fulfillment of social and economic needs during that period. But with certain nationalization policies adopted during 50s with two law enactments, the SOEs were strengthened during 1950s, then expanded further. But of course, at the initial few decades, the SOEs were operating successfully and in a viable manner. But of course, today, the story is much more different. Today, we have about more than 400 SOEs, of which we have about 52 SOBs, that is state-owned business enterprises. Of course, which include Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Ceylon Electricity Board, Sri Lankan Airlines, and many other, of course, 2 state banks and many other organizations, which are really business engaging institutions. So the question is, are they operating in a viable manner? Which is the question posed by many parties and the public today. So today, we know they are not operating in a sound and viable manner. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities in the SOE sector. So they have been making continuous losses. So there are many reasons behind these issues. Of course, lack of transparency, accountability, poor governance and the culture, governance culture, and poor financial performance, which has led to continuous losses, and heavy burden on the government. So government has been financed, the Treasury has been financing these SOEs for the last several years. The numbers are pretty high. So these funds would have been utilized by the government for more needy sectors, like SMEs. But of course, there were no alternatives with government continue to supporting to minimize losses as a result of operational inefficiencies, so which has further aggravated the cost burden on the government. Also, in certain cases, there's a lack of transparency in costing and pricing. Always, Professor Lakshman or whatever has been mentioning in many forums about costing. Despite we have several auditing standards, but we don't have any costing standard in Sri Lanka. So I think even yesterday he mentioned, now we can imagine the medicine prices going by, increase due to the depreciation of, rupee few months ago, but it continually increasing. So we don't have any methodology to cost a product or service and price it properly. So costing and pricing also been a problematic area for most of our SOEs. I think, of course, recently several tariffs were revised with some costing methodology, which of course we can hear from our panelists. Again, are we pricing them rightly? Now, of course, I had a little chat with Rohan a few minutes ago. Now, I got my electricity bill, so which, as per the evaluation, they have charged me double the cost. So I am paying more than 100% for the electricity board. But he mentioned the lowest category, they are only charging 8 rupees. Whereas I am paying 75 rupees. So is it the right way? So the government need to address the poor sector in a different way. So we have to, otherwise we can't continue these SOEs in a viable and stable manner. So there are a lot of questions with respect to operations of SOEs, especially the 2 big SOEs, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the Electricity Board. So I have some numbers. Of course, our panelists would tell more. The data extracted from the central bank annual report, the Electricity Board, the last year loss was 22 billion, 2021. The previous year, 69.2 billion. So which has been burden on the state banks. The funding for electricity boards last year, 94 billion by banks. Then previous year, 92.8 billion. Of course, in the case of CPC, last year, 82.2 billion loss. The funding is staggering 505 billion rupees. So are we like to continue in this manner? So we need to bring in reforms and restructure this organization. Because the topic for the seminar, conference, crisis and opportunity to rebuild Sri Lanka. So this is an opportunity to restructure and introduce reforms to the state-owned enterprises. So with that little note, and due to limited time constraints, so I will hand over the forum to our distinguished panelists. Thank you. So let me first invite Mr. Susanta Silva of Ceylon Petroleum Corporation.
Thank you very much. President Professor Vadavala, CMA, President Safa, Session Chairman, Vice Chairman, my dear panelists, council members, members of CMA, ladies and gentlemen. I think my topic is really very hot topic. But nevertheless, I wanted to say something for CPC and for our country and what I think about professional outlook about the CPC. At the moment, CPC is on the hot spot, including CEB, thinking that these two organizations are really putting the whole country in trouble. So that is where the question comes, whether state enterprises are well managed or mismanaged. Now, well managed and mismanaged. Between these two words, there are more managed. Because if it is not well managed, someone say it is managed. If it is not managed, someone say it is less managed. And I won't say it is mismanaged. Now, mismanaged word is a very serious word. If it is mismanaged, I should not be there. I should be behind bars. The mismanagement is a very serious word. I will leave it to you all to decide whether the Petroleum Corporation is managed, mismanaged or well managed after this 20 minutes. Of course, our session chairman said that heavily funded and also it's really burning for the government. So let us look at it. What CPC is all about. In 60 years ago, in 1962, there were two babies were born. Who were they? One is Petroleum Corporation and the other one is People's Bank. On one day after the other, by Act of Parliament, the CPC was born on number 28, and People's Bank was born on number 29. So two different acts. And this act, CPC number 28, was approved by the Parliament. That was 1961. But the CPC was born in 1962. So now 60 years old. So I'm talking about an old man like me, 60 years old. And the question comes first. CPC, has it mismanaged or well managed over these 60 years? Definitely, I don't think it is mismanaged. The reason is, if it has mismanaged, it can't be surviving at this time. But it is an old man today. But it did his dealing all the time, right through up to now. Same with People's Bank. Now, we'll go into the little bit of details about this management. Now, what do we mean by management? This is where we are in CMA, management accountants. So we all should know what is management is all about. I'm not going to talk about it. But if I want to talk about the management of CPC, I may need about a couple of hours. So therefore, I thought I will take the professional approach on how to look at the management of CPC from one of the management tools. I'm sure you all have heard about 6 capital integrated reporting. Let us look at on this 6 capital integrated reporting and then look at it whether CPC has been managed well. So 6 different capitals. I'm going to add one more at the end. Okay, what is the first capital? And we all know financial capital. And we all are very, very expert being accountants, managing financial capital. So the question is whether CPC has managed its financials. There are a lot of criticism to say poor financial management at CPC. I'm not going to do an audit on that or describe on that because audience are the people who really judge whether CPC has managed financial well. At the moment, CPC has been financed by 2 banks, BOC and People's Bank. CPC in debt to these 2 banks. But is it really a burden to the government? Another story. And why CPC has to borrow so much of money? Another question. In fact, the real terms is CPC has been making a social profit at the cost of the capital by issuing fuel at subsidized prices. Now, when you say subsidized prices, means the price below the cost. Price below the cost. Since 2007, to the best of my knowledge, the subsidies are being accounted under CPC. And today, up to 2021, I have not calculated for 2022, more than 560 millions of US dollars gone to the loss because of subsidies. So the CPC is at loss, yes. Naturally, this subsidy being given by whom? By way of what? We CPC have to borrow money to give this subsidy. And then we have to pay interest rate on this. And today's interest rate is 33, 34%. So these are accounted under loss. So one can say financially not managed. But who asked CPC to give one subsidy? The policymakers. And has that money been given back to CPC? No. Now this is the story of CPC. So you can imagine 460 million US dollars worth of money has been borrowed. Just calculate 30% interest on that if it is rupee equivalent. So if you want to know how much borrowings on this 460 million US dollars into 362 into 30%, you can see how much is costing. That is one. I'm going to say only one or two. And also you don't like power cuts. My colleague is over here. CPC has to provide fuel. And this fuel is given on credit. Today, the CEB and power plants owe CPC more than 100 billion. Now, if the power cut comes, policymakers wanted us to give fuel to avoid the power cuts. We do that, but CPC has to finance it. But just calculate 100 billion into 30%, divide by 12, you can find out how much of interest that we have to pay. So this is the financial capital. I'm going to end up with these 2 points. That is why I said I can talk a couple of hours about this. Whether CPC financially mismanaged or not. In fact, my answer is no. There can be small here and there. I cannot iron out the whole thing. But taking the responsibility as a managing director for second time, and I am saying this. Otherwise, CPC is making money and profit. My first time when I came into CPC, it was 2012. I was hired from UK. And the 2011 loss was 84 billion. And the year I took over, 2012, 97 billion, more than 2011. But I'm not saying it is my own work, no. It's a teamwork. And 2013, we brought down to that loss to 7.2 billion. And 2014, we made a profit of 1.7 billion. At the hike of very high fuel prices. CPC can be a worthy business for Sri Lanka and for Sri Lankan people. The reason why I'm saying is, now this is where the mismanagement, or I won't say it is mismanaged, it is less managed. And we put all the systems and procedures back on track in 2013, and the corporation started making its headway to make profit. Because if it is mismanaged, means mismanaging funds, mismanaging stock, we can call it in everything. So that is kind of not the right word, I suppose. Then the next one, next capital is, we call it in the standards manufactured capital. Now what is the manufactured capital in CPC? The manufactured capital means the CPC's capital assets. Now the question is whether these capital assets have been well managed. Now what are these main capital assets? Is the refinery, more than 50 years old, again the old man. But to the status of the refinery, I would say it is well managed. Why I am saying is nowhere in the world will stand this kind of old refinery. Still working, still profitable, believe me, still profitable. But it is under the old technology. And if we can refurbish it, we will be able to make double the profit. This refinery still working. Much credit goes to the people who are managing it because they somehow take their effort to manage the refinery. At the moment it is closed down. The reason is without crude oil. I'm not going to talk about that, why crude oil is not there. Because then my session time is going to be over. Already it is only 4 minutes left. If I have 5 minutes more, I would be really glad. Then I want to say this also. If we are managing these assets into a well standard, it is not only the refinery. We have a huge complex of tank farm here in Kolonnawa, Muthurajawala, and also all over the countryside, and also big tank farm in Trincomalee. 100 tanks, one is of course destroyed by the German bombing. Now these are not yet well managed, but not mismanaged. Then the next point is the third capital. I would say human capital. In fact, the fourth one is according to the standard is intellectual capital, but I will touch first the human capital. Now, the big complaint on the CPC once again are too many people in CPC. In fact, that is right. When I first took over in 2012, the first thing I did a skill audit to find out how many people we need to run this whole operation. My calculation was 1,800, including the refinery and the distribution. But we had about that time 5,800. You can imagine how many people more. Now again one can say, human capital is not managed, or that someone say mismanaged, having so many people in CPC. But the question is, who put them there? Again, I will leave the answer to you. Now this is the problem. And at the end, when the CPC is making profit, people complain to say that CPC is not managed well. Now, but CPC didn't take those people in. Now this is where the question is. This is where the question is. So human capital is not managed. And today, of course, it has gone down to 4,200, something like that, because we have not replaced the people who has retired. But to your surprise, for this 4,200 people, the intellectual people is maybe around 300, 400 people. I mean, the people who really know the industry norms. Again, answer is yours. Whether CPC has mismanaged the human capital or someone else has mismanaged the human capital. I think I will just say that the other capital infrastructures, I mean the capital that we need to manage, the intellectual capital. Now here, intellectual capital, more than this, it contributes the fuel quality and quality standards of Sri Lanka. the CPC proud to say, CPC still maintain this particular aspect without compromising any standards. Of course, there were a few issues in 2011 and thereafter in 2013 because substandard oil came. CPC took the very strong mediation on that, regulation on that, and today, without the CPC approval, CPC quality approval, CPC lab approval, the oil is not discharged. Even Mr. Gupta will say that he will not discharge even, because we have to maintain this particular aspect of quality. So, quality-wise, CPC has not badly managed, because you have not seen any car stop on the road. And this intellectual capital, I wanted to say that. Now, if we take medical colleges and the universities, they all have medical colleges assigned into their university. But we don't have a petroleum college in Sri Lanka. And in fact, I initiated this with the University of Kelaniya and also University of Kadubadda, but could not launch that effort because the 2015 I have to leave the job as managing director. But I have now restarted it because we have a complete refinery with us, and also the oil distribution systems we have the software which runs, we have all the knowledge and know-how. We can have a petroleum faculty at Sapugaskanda, which I wanted to launch it, which I did long time ago. Because what I am saying is there are so much of demand for petrochemical industrial people in the world, in different categories. Then the next capital is social capital. At the moment, we have not mismanaged that. Social capital also, because there is a social responsibility. Of course, there were one or two occasions when the rain came, so the sludge went into the river, something like that. But other than that, the CPC is taking the total responsibility of this social capital, and also supporting the natural capital. For that, LIOC also supporting, lot of supports comes from them as well, recultivating plants and so on, helping the nature. And the last one is the one that I said I will add, the technological capital. We heard very well today in the previous session. And there is a technological development with the technology going on, and then the CPC within that managing all that to the satisfaction of the technology. So these 7 aspects, when we are doing it well, now the question comes to your mind, I am sure, whether CPC is managed, less managed, well managed, or mismanaged. So therefore, there is a big question mark to this restructuring CPC, which I am out to do supporting that. But at the same time, if we don't make the fundamentals right for any organization for that matter, whatever restructure we do will not work. And we heard about the transparency, we heard about the good governance, we heard about the risk and risk mitigation at the previous session. But again, the question mark is, who should maintain the transparency? Who should maintain the good governance? CPC, as much as I can say, trying to maintain all that transparency and good governance within CPC. So there are two worlds. Inside the CPC is one world, outside CPC is another world. So one has to decide, one has to answer the question. Within CPC, I can say we are maintaining the transparency. And everybody, there were so many newspapers, news articles going on to say that CPC is not following the procurement procedures. No, CPC is following the procurement guidelines. It is not deviating what is written in the national procurement guidelines. It's not deviating. So therefore, I think my time is over. That's what I said. I can talk about this if I get a chance again. But CPC is somehow making its headway to give the economic benefits. That is what I am saying. Subsidized prices, $460 million US, need to be accounted as social profit, not the loss of CPC. It is not a loss of CPC. It has been given, the subsidy is given to the farmers, subsidy is given to the fishermen, subsidy is given to the transportations. So this is a social profit. So there is something somewhere wrong in the accounting standard in that case. We have to revisit. And that's what my last point that I just wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Susantha Silva, Managing Director, Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, for wonderful explanation on whether CPC was well managed, less managed, or mismanaged. So, of course, finally, he said that in terms of social responsibility, the CPC made a profit, but which has not been accounted. Of course, Professor Lakshman R. Wattawala need to think about it, how we accommodate in costing the expenditure on social responsibility. So this is something I think CMA need to take into account while promoting costing and pricing of products and services. Of course, then let me invite Mr. Rohan Seniviratne, Additional General Manager, Ceylon City Board, to express his thoughts and views on managing Ceylon City Board.
Professor Lakshman R. Wattawala, the founder president of CMA, the organizers of the CMA National Management Accounting Conference 22, and the panelists, my colleague panelists here, the distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me extend my sincere gratitude to Professor Wattawala for inviting me to speak in this very important national conference. The theme of the conference is Crisis and Opportunity to Build Sri Lanka, which I believe is very interesting and important topic. This session today is state-owned organizations, are they well managed and mismanaged? Under this session, I was invited to speak on the topic a professional view in managing CEB during next 20 to 25 minutes. What is CEB? CEB at a glance, it's a 500 billion rupee entity by next year, founded in 1969. CEB serves 7 million customers, and the net fixed assets are 852 billion. We have a human capital of 25,000 employees, and we do generate about 50% of electrical energy in the country from renewable energy now. Our vision is to enrich life through power. And CEB is an operator. Operator worked within the power sector structure. It has the policymaker, operator, regulator, and the governor. So we are enacted by the CEB Act number 17 of 1969. We operate under the license issued by the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, We have 6 licenses issued to CEB, generation license, transmission license, and 4 licenses for distribution divisions. We have 4 subsidiaries, LTL Holdings, Sri Lanka Electricity Company, Lanka Coal Company, and Sri Lanka Energies Private Limited. CEB is managed by the Board of Directors, and they empower the authority to the General Manager of CEB, and we have 10 divisions and 9 divisions managed by additional general managers, and the other division is managed by the finance manager. Of course, today is the 53rd anniversary of CEB. So I had to be at my office in the morning and deliver a speech and came. So today is the 53rd anniversary of CEB. So the power sector, from the beginning, headed by very eminent personalities in Sri Lanka. They are the ministers headed by the power sector. And the chairmen of CEB, once again, very eminent people during last 53 years, those who made the policies for the power sector. The general managers, the chief executive officers of the CEB, so they are all engineers, and within the organization, they also contributed immensely to bring the CEB to the present position. I'll be the general manager of CEB from December. In the senior management of CEB, there are 915 electrical engineers, 101 mechanical engineers, 77 civil engineers, 101 accountants, and so on. The total staff and strength is about 24,825, and the technical staff is 14,237, and non-technical is about 10,498. These electrical engineers, civil engineers, all are chartered engineers, and most of them have first class or second class honors degrees, and most of them have master's degrees as well. The accountants are, again, chartered accountants, and the CMA qualified accountants with masters and so on. If somebody asks me what is the best achievement of Ceylon Electricity Board during these 53 years, I will say the 100% electrification of the country. We managed to electrify the entire nation by 2019, which was a very immense target and very challenge, and we managed to achieve this target by 2019. By doing that, we now serve 7 million customers. Serving 7 million customers is not easy for a power utility. It is not like Mobitel or Dialog. This is each and every house is connected with a high voltage wire. You have to maintain and operate all these wires to the 7 million customers. We do that for the moment. And this is also another achievement of CEB, the technical and non-technical losses, the generation, transmission, and the distribution losses, including the non-technical. It is around 8.9%. This is one of the best in the region if you compare with the other utilities. This is one of the best, and our staff worked very hard to achieve these targets. Ceylon Electricity Board owned 3,087 megawatts of power plants. Those are Lakshapana Complex, Mahavali Complex, Samanala Complex, Thermal Complex, and our own 100 megawatt power plant in Mana. So this is Mahavali Complex power plants, this is Lakshapana Complex, this is Samanala Complex, and this is the most recently added, about 2 to 3 months ago, we added the Broadlands power plant of 35 megawatts. And the Lakvijaya is the 900 megawatt largest coal power plant in the country, provides about 30% of energy to the nation. And the Kalnitisa thermal complex also plays a big role in our generation, and also the Sapukaskanda thermal complex. And all operations and the maintenance of power plants are carried out by our own staff with this skill, training, and the knowledge. And the Mena power plant of 100 megawatts, it's one of the most successful stories. The CEB-owned power plant is running very well at this moment of time. We opened the sector for the private entities. The private power plants are also operating all over the country. So in that context, most of the private power plants are renewable power plants, except only one thermal power plant operating at present, West Coast Power Plant. Even though it's private operated, 90% of the shares are owned by the government. So all power plants are government-owned in that connection. So the private sector contribution to the power plants is about 1,497 megawatts of capacity. So we have altogether about 4,755 megawatts of generation capacity, out of which 2,915 megawatts is renewable. That's a remarkable achievement. We have 45,738 roof solar connections as well. So this 2,915 renewable capacity, when you compare with the total capacity, is 61%. 61% of our generation capacity is renewables. So that is a very good, great achievement. The roof solar story is one of the most successful stories. In fact, this project was led by me. Now we have 656 megawatts of roof solar. So our day peak is about 2,000 megawatts, out of which 656 is coming from roof solar, 45,000 customers. So this is one of the most successful projects, and the CEB is credited to bring large amounts of roof solar into the grid. In the year 21, when you look at our generation portfolio, it's 51% generated from renewables. The energy-wise, 51% generated from renewables, and this year we are going to generate 50% from renewables. So this is a great achievement and a great contribution to the environment. If you look at the world scenario, the world produces only 26% from renewable energy sources for the power generation. And if you take few other countries, like our neighbor, Mr. Gupta's country, it's 20% from renewables, and UK 40%, and USA 20%, and so on. So we have reached 50% now. During these 53 years, our transmission network improved and went all over the country, and now we have 3,000 kilometers of large pylon lines and another about 80 grid substations. All the maintenance activities and construction, operation, all done by the CEB. And there are many distribution lines all over the country, and that comes to about 180,000 kilometers of power lines and about 35,000 substations. Those are scattered all over the country and operated and maintained by the CEB. And when you look at the total picture, it is about 200,000 kilometers of lines. Overhead lines are being managed and operated by the CEB. 200,000 kilometers of power lines, all are overhead. It's not easy to operate when there is bad weather, when there is various other weather conditions. You have to operate these lines and to operate, maintain, and so on. So it is about 200,000 kilometers of lines we do operate. As an entity, we increased our sales during last many years. And also when you look at the reliability, if you do away with this percent demand management activities, the Colombo reliability is 99.98 and the whole country reliability is 98.85. And we have 7 million customers. How is the collection? We are to collect 311 billion this year, and the next year 478 billion. If you see the current status, we are collecting 97% of what we sell. And our receivable position is 1.81. Maximum you can reach is 1 month, so we are about 3 weeks delay in collections. Our customer service is scattered all over the country, 244 customer service centers, and the area officers 69, and so on. So we do provide online payment facilities to the customers, and we have our own applications to manage our breakdown operations and various other operations. So IT was developed by our own engineers to access by the customers. We have 11 call centers of 100 seated at a time. And we have bill payment facilities all over the country, ECT and e-drive services. People can pay the bills on their vehicle. And customer service has improved significantly during last many years. During the COVID period, the only organization which was in full operation is CEB. We went to COVID places and all the other places, COVID houses, and we managed to give you all electricity. So electricity was the best to use during this COVID period, and we reimburse 6 billion rupees. When you use more electricity during that period, we reimburse 6 billion rupees to the people who utilize more electricity. As far as the governance is concerned, we produce annual reports, statutory accounts, regulatory accounts. We have SORP, disciplinary procedures, leave regulations. As my colleague said, we follow the National Procurement Guideline A to Z, and we have the Chief Internal Auditor and the Government Audit also sitting in our office, and we do use KPIs for various activities and so on. We are trying our best to do the good governance. However, at present we face two big challenges. One challenge is the demand management, or else the power cuts. I think you can remember last few months ago it was about 12 hours and so on. It came down to 2.5, and now it is about 1 month due to rains that we are getting. So that is a huge challenge for the CEB and huge challenge for the customers of CEB. So these power cuts or the demand management is different to other years, because this crisis came because of the dollar crisis and the fuel crisis. and the financial crisis of CEB. So those were the main reasons to have these ongoing demand activities. So let me give you a little more details on the financial position in CEB, because most of you are accountants. And this is how CEB performed from 2013 to 2023. So many of the years, bottom line was negative. Those are, according to my colleague, yes, those are kind of subsidies, but I say bottom line is negative. And this year, the bottom line after tariff revision, bottom line is going to be 151 billion. And the next year, it will be, if we go with 3-hour power cuts, it will be 326 billion. If we go without power cuts, it will be 379 billion. So this will be the bottom line for next 2 years. On top of that, we have major trade and other payables to CPC, 52 billion, and IPP and so on. And when you add all these things, it comes to about 650 billion. And the total estimated budget for 2022 is given here. You can see 151 billion negative. And in the year 23, it will be 379 billion negative. And these are the generation cost for 2023. You can see that the oil generation is expensive, coal generation also expensive because of the high oil prices and devaluation of rupee. CEB has not received any tariff revision from 2013 onwards. So 2014, there was a reduction of 25%, and after that, for 9 years, there was no tariff increase. This shows how it performed. It's a very interesting graph for you all to understand. And what happened to the tariff? Tariff was fixed, but the expenditure was more, and expenditure is going to be very much higher in this year as well as next year. If you compare our new tariff against the tariffs in the region, still we are reasonable. We are somewhere there. There are many countries which are above Sri Lanka as far as the electricity tariff is concerned. Our operating expenditure, when you look at it, it is the 85% is generation cost, and the distribution is 10%, and the transmission is 4%, and so on. Our personal costs are, this year it will be 10%, and the next year it will be 7%. The main reasons for the adverse financial position is the rupee devaluation, fuel price increase, coal price increase, delay in tariff revisions, and delay in construction of efficient thermal power plants. You can see what happened to the fuel prices. Fuel prices doubled, tripled, and it has affected. Coal prices, it was $80 per ton, now it is about $320 per ton. And the exchange rate almost doubled. So this has impacted tremendously CEB, but there were no tariff revisions for the last 9 years. And if you look at in dollar terms, the tariff was reduced. During last 9 years, there was no increase in the tariff in rupee, but there is a tremendous reduction of tariff if you look at in the US cents. So that is what has happened to the tariff. And if you look at this side carefully, even after the new tariff, we provide 1.5 million customers, the monthly bill is 198 rupees. Another 1.5 million, monthly bill is 639. Another 1.4 million, monthly bill is 1,542. This is after the tariff revision. So you yourself can assume whether we can give 1 month electricity for 1.5 million customers for 198 rupees. And this is the subsidy. So we sell at a different price, and our cost is different. So each sector, we have to have huge subsidy. So when you add the total subsidy, it will come to 380 billion for the year 2023. So with these challenges, it is time to reimagine for the future. When you reimagine for the future is digitized, decarbonized, and the decentralized. So this is the trend all over the world. So the future goals should be meeting future power generation capacity based on low carbon technologies and renewable energy using appropriate business models, expansion and modernization of grid to enhance reliability and to integrate large quantities of renewable energy distributed generation, enable seamless digital customer experience and business excellence through digital transformation and reforms. So our government policy is to go for 70% renewables by 2030. In order to do that, we have to add large quantities of especially solar and wind power to the national grid. So this is an investment of 11 billion. In this 11 billion investment, 4.5 billion investment is for the improvement of the transmission and the distribution network. Balance 6 billion should come from the private sector by constructing various renewable power plants. To achieve 70% target, we have to construct 5,888 megawatts of power plants during next 8 years. It's an enormous challenge. As per the 70% scenario, in the year 2030, we are going to produce 26% of our electrical energy from solar, 16% from wind and so on, and there will not be any oil-fired power plants. It will be taken over by the natural gas. And what are the short-term and medium-term solutions for the existing crisis? So one is to bring down the cost of generation. It is a must. 85% of the cost is in the generation. To do that, we have to bring renewables as much as possible. So immediate renewable absorption is a very important thing. One of the best things is to get as many roof solar as possible. And the second is to the demand management, fuel management, capacity management, tariff management, subsidies management, and the finance management of CEB are all tied together. We have to sit together with the central bank, then the bankers, then the treasury, then the PUCSL, CEB, ministry, everybody, and to determine how we can manage demand, how we can manage fuel, whether there is enough fuel for next year, whether there is enough dollars for next year, then what will be the tariff for next year, and how much subsidy the treasury can give to the sector, and we have to put all these things and to decide how we are going to work next year. Then the demand side management on the customer side important, and the Sobadanami power plant, which is being constructed now, has to be expedited. All transmission and distribution projects are now stopped because of this present financial crisis, so we have to fast track them. Then the future for transmission and distribution networks have to be the projects have to be planned now itself. And also one thing I think most of you are not aware, CEB is the biggest taxpayer to the government. So I think Inland Revenue Department next year tax forecast is approximately, this year is about 900 billion. So next year CEB is going to pay 100 billion taxes. 100 billion taxes. It is 55 billion from coal VAT itself. And likewise for the other procurements and the oil procurement, CEB is going to pay 100 billion taxes out of the 900 to 1,000 billion inland revenue is going to. We will be the biggest taxpayer in the country. And on the medium term, what we are planning is to bring about 2,000 megawatts of renewable during next 4 years, up to 2026 to bring 2,000 megawatts of renewable in order to bring down the cost and to manage our own resources. So that is what we are working very hard on, that to bring about 2,000 megawatts additional renewable capacity during next 4 years. In the next 4 years, we have to have another power plant in Kerawalapitiya, another 350 megawatts. And the liquid natural gas, we should bring into the country. It's a must to reduce the cost in the sector. And also implementation of transmission and distribution projects should go ahead, and new projects should come. And the business process re-engineering and the digital transformation should go ahead. And also sector should be reformed. So when you reform the sector, as my colleague from CPC said, there are a lot of attributes for reform process. Just for the sake of reforming, if you reform, it will not work. So there are various areas to be reformed. Not only CEB, the entire power sector should be reformed. From the regulator, from the ministry, from the treasury, and from the subsidies, whether cost-reflective tariffs, and so many things to be fulfilled to get this efficiency. CEB itself reforming will not give the total solution, but CEB has to be reformed. There are a lot more areas that we can improve in the efficiency and should go ahead with that. So we have given a proposal and how we should go ahead with this reforms process. We have given a very generous and very good proposal for the ministry on how it should be. It is given by the top management of the CEB for the sector reforms. And this is the proposal that we have envisaged in our proposal, to have 4 distribution companies for the 4 distribution divisions which are operating now, and to have generation company and the transmission company, and other auxiliary services we have 1 more company. And then we would like to invite strategic partners with the capabilities to join hand with the distribution sectors for the moment, 4 distribution sectors, so that we can have strategic partners from the private sector or international strategic partners to join for the distribution sector. So this is what we are proposing, and also the government holding of all these companies, we propose to have 1 company like Temasek model, so that that company can manage the entire sector from a broader perspective in managing the affairs. So this is what we have proposed for the reform process. And in conclusion, it is important to reimagine CEB for the future. So in the short term and long term, we have a lot of work to be done to manage this crisis situation. But while doing that, we should not forget the future, what we are going to do in 2030. So we have to plan and implement those projects as well. So that is the most important thing for the moment, to reimagine and to go ahead with the plans. And then transition to low carbon technologies for power generation is a must. We should get as much renewable power as possible for the grid. Then the modernization of the grid and making it to smart grid and expansion to absorb renewable energy is very important. So that is also another important area. The digital customer experience, we should increase the digital customer experience, and it is not adequate in CEB. The IT is not adequate in CEB. So we have to go for ERP systems, smart metering systems, and so on to bring the digital technology inside. Then the business excellence through digital transformation and the tariff revisions. Tariff revisions should come. If we had revisions every year 10% during last 9 years, we didn't want any increase now. What we did was we stopped tariff increases for 9 years, now giving a large increase for which people cannot bear it. Had we given 10% every year, we would not have been in this financial crisis. So for 9 years, we did not get any tariff revision, so much so that for the last 9 years, we gave electricity for 1.5 million customers at the rate of rupees 60 per month. Rupees 60 per month for 1.5 million customers during last 9 years. Another 1.5 million, it is 225 million rupees, 225 rupees. Another 1.5 million, 760 rupees for the last 9 years. Even now what we have increased is for the 1.5 million, we increase it to 200 rupees per month. One bread is 200 rupees. So then the tariff revision, we have to do it carefully, it's a must. And then we have to increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of all what we are doing, and the commitment and the leaderships are necessary, and all reforms should come, and the sector should be reformed and restructured for the bet, while keeping the mind in the future objectives. And it cannot be done within 1 or 2 days. It's a journey. It's a long journey. If all agree, all the sector people, all stakeholders take the correct decisions and give the proper advice and the proper support, we can do wonders in this sector. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Seniviratne, for your valuable insights into what is happening in Ceylon Electricity Board at present and your future plans, and how to manage under difficult conditions. So we have already heard for 2 stories in Sri Lankan context, which are not very interesting, CPC and CB. Of course, now we are going to hear a totally different story, a private entity, Indian-based entity, operating in Sri Lanka, Lanka IOC, which has been making continuous profits. So of course, Mr. Gupta would tell about the numbers. So what is the difference? Whereas CPC was in a loss position under the same condition, whereas IOC was making profit. So let me invite Mr. Manoj Gupta, Managing Director, Lanka IOC, to share his Indian experience in managing a state enterprise. Mr. Gupta.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me this opportunity. A very, very good afternoon, and respected President CMA, Chairman, Co-Chairman of the ongoing session, my fellow speakers, council members, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Sir, on the onset, trust me, like we are so grateful, we are so humbled really for having been given this opportunity. But like I would just like to correct, instead of talking about Lanka IOC, like I would be more focusing upon upon the best practices of our parent organization, Indian Oil Corporation. Like, everything is known about Lanka IOC. We are a listed company. All our figures, all our updates, every quarter are there on the website of Colombo Stock Exchange. And nothing is hidden, sir. It's a very transparent organization and all. So I'll just take this opportunity to focus more about Indian Oil Corporation. In fact, we are from Indian Oil Corporation. Like, I, as Managing Director of Lanka IOC, who stand in front of you, like, come on a deputation for a span of almost about 4.5 years from Indian Oil Corporation, and after completing my stint, we fly back, sir. So, taking it from over there, sir, like, what is Indian Oil Corporation? Indian Oil Corporation is the energy of India. India, the country of almost close to about 1.4 billion. Now, Indian Oil, the globally admired company, like a Fortune 500 listed company, like that we are very proud of our ranking close to about 200, is a very, very vast organization. I mean, Lanka IOC in comparison to Indian Oil Corporation is a minuscule. Like, as on date, we say we have about 213 or 14 sheds. We are in the process of setting up another 100 sheds that we are so proud of. But if I were to talk about IOC, IOC has more than 33,000 sheds. They commission almost about more than 1,000 sheds on a regular basis. Like, it's an entirely different kind of a setup. I mean, they owe almost 48 to 50% of the distribution network in our country, India. I mean, we are into different verticals. Our organization has different streams. We are split up into different divisions. We have a marketing division. We have a refineries division. We have a pipelines division. We have a research and development division. We have a business development division. And each division, a complete vertical portfolio in itself, has absolute complete accountability. I mean, before coming down on the important aspects, the facets of Indian Oil Corporation, I mean, I thought it would be nice to just touch upon some important attributes about Indian Oil Corporation. We are the biggest petrochemicals player in the country, in India, after Reliance. Like, we are the second biggest RLNG player, the residual LNG player in the country. Like, we have the ownership of almost close to about 1,500 patents. We are the leading lubricant supplier, marketer in the country. Like, and we are more than 50 years old. Like, we are immensely big in the CGD business out over there. We are a complete innovative company. Like, trust me, in Indian Oil Corporation, it is more or less getting into a paperless organization. Now, one of my expats, who after completing his stint, now when he goes back to Indian Oil and started discharging his duties, he says, sir, I find it very difficult. I took almost about 2 to 3 months to get acclimatized to the functioning of IOC because everything was manual out over here. Even in Lanka IOC, for example, we still have papers, we still have files and all. While we try to digitalize many of the things, rather not use the word digitalize, we intend to automate many of the affairs, but still the paper movement of the files takes place. There in Indian Oil, absolutely, trust me, even if there are 10 stakeholders in a proposal who needs to vet it, right from the level of the initiator to the level of the chairman, I mean, the file moves digitally. And while every one of the intermediary stakeholder has full authority to pen down his objections. I mean, those are recorded. Those get recorded in the system, and the proposal digitally flows back to the concerned person, to the concerned desk, where it goes to. It builds a lot of accountability into the system. I mean, absolutely nobody, whether he's a general manager, whether he's a he's a senior manager or a chief manager, can hold back the proposal. They may have difference of opinions, fine, but they are bound to record it, and it gets digitally recorded. So the ownership of every proposal, the accountability, the transparency, everything is there very much. And trust me, sirs, there are certain very important, they have defined limits. It would be wrong to specify those limits. Beyond those particular limits, the proposals are even monitored right from the ministry. Directly, on the click of a button, they can very well know what is the status of the project, what is the status of the proposal, what is the status of this capital project. So everyone is accountable. I'm not saying that we are scared. I mean, there is a slight difference between using the word accountable and using the word scared. Like if I'm holding back, if I'm having certain reservations, I need to be very crystal clear about it. We are in a big way in refining in India. We owe 11 refineries out over there. We have a refining capacity of close to about 80 metric tons per annum. And we don't stop over there. We are still working very hard. We are very confident in the next 3-4 years, we are going to take up our refining capacity to 120 million metric tons per annum, almost an enhancement of about 40%. I'll just touch upon that in my subsequent slide. We have a tremendous infrastructure in the downstream side. Not only one R&D division that we have in the capital city of Delhi, in Faridabad, we are spending another $300 million USD to come up with the second research and development center. And trust me, this research and development centers that we talk about are the nerve centers of our organizations. Whatever improvisations we are doing in the field of lubricants, we are coming out with very environmental friendly lubricants. We are supplying lubricants to not less than 33 countries across the world. And trust me, that fetches a lot of foreign exchange to Indian Oil. I mean, coming back to refining capacity, we have 9 refineries plus another 2 making it 11, but we are in the process of augmenting the 80 million capacity to 120 million capacity. I mean, these are small, these appears to be a small numbers, but it is a mammoth job. I mean, exclusive experts, exclusive division, refinery divisions completely are working on it. And trust me, the chairman of Indian Oil Corporation, Mr. S.M. Vedya, to whom we owe so much to, every day he's on a move. Every day, trust me, of the 7 days, I mean, he may be traveling almost 6 days a week. I mean, we have 24 hours a day, but would not be wrong for me to state that the man and maybe the members of the board, they must be working for not less than 17, 18, 20 hours a day. Every day it's a day of a new area, interaction with the new people, maybe visiting the ministries, engaging in multiple seminars, multiple conferences, discussions about the new innovatives. And it is not only the discussions, it is a full-fledged commitment for implementation of any discussion which has taken place at any point of time. Let me also mention very important thing. With lots of regards, I mean, those were so wonderful presentations and hearings I was listening to from the senior management of CPC and CEB. In case of Indian Oil Corporation, I don't see intervention of if I could use the word, I mean, instead of using this, let me say it, we are too authorized to take decisions on our own. I mean, the board of directors of Indian Oil Corporation, headed by the chairman of Indian Oil Corporation, is too competent to take decisions on almost all the fronts at their own. They do not need clearance of the GOI on the regular routine things. It is only on maybe, some specifics beyond some predetermined limits wherein they need to go to the government and they need to seek the clearance. They are fully competent to set up the prices. Rather, they have the targets. They have the targets for CAPEX. Like, say for instance, 35,000 Indian crores. That makes it 3,500 million or billion? Million USD. And by any chance, if Indian Oil misses out on accomplishing that target, there's a complete explanation which needs to be rendered by no less than the chairman to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas in India. And capex means you are not only refurbishing, you are not only creating, you are not only building up the new assets, you are also doing a social job. Why? Because you are providing employment to lakhs and lakhs of people out over there. So, I mean, these are very, very important stick targets. I mean, there have been, if I could say, yojanas launched like Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. You know, you must have heard quite a lot about it, wherein crores of Indian household families have been provided LPG connection. And why? Just to do away with the conventional methods of cooking at their home. And trust me, the company like Indian Oil Corporation has fulfilled all those targets. I mean, and now, I mean, crores of Indian households have been provided LPG, wherein subsidies have been provided. A portion of that has been taken care of by the government. A portion of that has also been taken care of by the Indian Oil, the LPG stoves, the systems, even the refill part and all that. Trust me, these are mammoth jobs. But then what makes it possibly going? It is only, I mean, yes, every individual is committed, but if at all they do not meet those set out timelines, they cannot sleep. Trust me, they cannot sleep. I mean, the management of Indian Oil Corporation would not let the people sleep. I mean, we have almost about 32,000 people out over there. Maybe around 12,000, a few hundreds would be officers. Rest of them are the workforce. When it comes to our revenue, we have a revenue or sales turnover of close to about 100 billion USD, right? Our profits range in the range of almost about 3.5 billion. When it comes to payment to the exchequer, like Indian Oil in India pays out something close to about 35,000 million USD, like in terms of taxes to the government on the annual basis. I mean, that was just an insight into what the organization is all about. We have close to 15,000 kilometer length of pipeline running across the country. And a major portion of the transfer of the products takes place through these pipelines. In fact, the objective is to maximize it, like from terminals to terminals. Coming to terminals, our terminals are smart terminals. I mean, wherein the manpower is very, very thin. Everything is automated. Trust me, everything is automated. I mean, right from the time the tanker, the Bowser, leaves the terminal premises till the time it reaches the shed premises, I mean, everything is digitally controlled out over there at the shed. Even if the manhole cover, the decantation pipe, the cover that we have on the top of the decantation pipe has to be opened. That has a lock provision, and that lock has to be opened by giving a specific command to it, by giving a specific number to it, and that number is sent by SMS from the terminal to the shed owner. Indirectly, what I'm trying to say is everything is digitalized, and there is a lot of focus on the customer-centric activities. Like all the sheds, out of 33,000 that I said to you, almost 31,500 sheds are automated. By automated, I mean there is absolutely no requirement of taking the dips. Right on the screen of the dashboard, right, the chairman out over there, Mr. S.M. Vaidya, in his corporate office, has a first glance view of the sales of the different state offices. Like in India, like we are divided into different state offices. Every state has a state office, right? And the sales of every state is completely monitored. Trust me, if the level of the product at any particular shed, goes below a set level, in India, there would be a stream of officers who are exclusively, they have been aligned this particular task in the corporate office. There is a specific software which works on this, which is called as Vishleshan. They work out the number of the sheds in every state where the stock level has gone below a specific level. And the general manager, the state head as we call him, he's taken to task. And once he is taken to task, he takes up the divisional managers down the lines to task. The authority of command prevails. Trust me, the shed owners, the divisional managers, the field officers, the managers in the hierarchy cannot take anything for light. They will have to really shake up the people down the line to make the things happening. And yes, ultimately, when the reviews at times are also taken by the ministry, and if at all these things are identified, such developments are taking place, it would be very, very difficult for the organization to move forward. So we can't afford any kind of non-compliance to the directives at any level in Indian Oil Corporation. We have always been very innovative. We are not complacent with our present accolades and all. Like just now, Indian Oil launched new grades of fuels. For example, XP95, XP100. While we have 32,000 sheds, it is the endeavor of every state head now to launch these fuels at every shed. Almost about 5,000 sheds have already started selling it. Any customer of LPG, he just gives a missed call and his LPG connection gets booked and the LPG cylinder gets delivered. Anybody want to enroll for a new LPG cylinder, he just needs to send a mail or just needs to send a message to a specific number and things happen. We have standard 14.2, standard 19, but still the company is coming out, rather it has come out. Sir, the company has come out with 2 kg LPG cylinders. The company has come out with 5 kg LPG cylinders. We call them Chotu, we call them Munna. And across the country, this initiative of Indian Oil has been very widely appreciated. LPG was a scarce commodity. Still, India imports a lot of LPG. But with the introduction of this, now Indian Oil has ventured into an arena wherein we don't ask for documents, maybe from the students, from the people who can't afford those 14 kg and all. Now, the initiative is to make LPG freely available to everyone whosoever who needs it. Our numbers would speak about themselves, would not like to talk more about that. But yes, we are very, very environmental friendly. We have set up plants at 2 out of our refinery locations to produce green hydrogen. We have been talking about EV charging stations. Trust me, that is a target which has been given by the government of India to Indian Oil to set up 10,000 EV charging stations in 3 years. Now in 3 years, this target has been given. Already Indian Oil has put up more than 3,000 EV charging stations. Similarly, with respect to new fuels, compressed biogas, we have started getting into it. So, even with respect to aviation, now we are getting into biofuels, sustainable aviation turbine fuels. Like lubricants, if we talk about, we have come out with those grades of lubricants where the pollutions is less, emissions are less, deposits are less. What I try to understand is innovation every day is the call of IOC, and they genuinely, stringently work upon it. It would just take another 3, 4, 5 minutes. Risk management, sirs have been talking about it and all. Trust me, there are exclusive risk owners, risk deliberators, risk committees, board committees and all. And we have all different kinds of risks which runs into millions and billions of USD and all. But then exclusive committees take premeditated, on-time decisions, keep the board apprised. Anything that is asked for is attended to at that particular point of time. we can't afford disruptions in our system because our country is hugely big and it would lead to a big amount of backlash in case if the supply is disrupted in any part of the country. We have a market share of close to about 65% in India, right? So, like we were talking about interactions, we were talking about corporate governance and all. Trust me, like to have the organization moving, the corporate governance is most essentially needed in the true spirit. And I would say genuinely, like as an IOCN, Indian Oil has that. I use the word accountability. We have promotions policy, we have transfers policy and all, and every employee, every official knows it. If I do not perform, we have laid down standard appraisal systems and everything is digitalized. Even I am very fearful. If I do not deliver, I would be, shunted out. I would be sent back to a faraway remote location where I would be finding it extremely very difficult to sustain with my family out over there. So not fair, but indirectly it also keeps me on my toes. And this is very, very, very important, I would say, to have these kind of systems in place, which the organizations has, which are very, very transparent. Everything, right from the appraisee to the appraiser to the counter-signing officer, everything flows flows digitally. There's no paper communication which takes place. We have vigilance system within the organization. Any complaint, if received at any level, has to be investigated and squared off, has to be settled. Now, this is the internal audit. This is the vigilance system within the organization. But then there is an external vigilance system also, which reports directly to the chief vigilance officer, who doesn't report to anybody else. He's appointed by the ministry, the government of India. He reports to no less than the chairman of Indian Oil. So ultimately, the sense of accountability multiplies many-fold. And any commoner for that matter, if he's disgruntled, if he's not satisfied, like there are portals available, redressal portals available, complaint lodging portal available, wherein any Tom Dick can just go lodge a complaint, but that would have to be addressed. That would have to be answered. There are exclusive people who would work on that, and he would make the reply having sent to the concerned person. Endlessly I can go on talking and talking. Trust me, one last thing, the procurement part, the procurement process, beyond a certain limit, everything 100% is resorted through the e-tendering mechanism. There is absolutely no provision available for any manual intervention of any kind. Sirs, trust me, while we may be talking about it, but genuinely if we have them implemented in board and really work for it with our utmost might, and there is no way by which we will fall out. And that is what Indian Oil has been demonstrating year after year, decades after decades, like for so long time periods and all. These are all various different kinds of digital initiatives which have been launched. A sample which has taken from a shed, if submitted to a smart QC lab, thereafter everything is digitally controlled. Everyone within the stipulated time period has the access of the test report of that particular sample. And once that thing is known right up to the Delhi level, there is just no hanky-panky which is possible. We have marketing discipline guidelines and system. If this is the case of a failure of the sample, the shed has to be terminated. Absolutely nobody right from the highest level has any authority to condone that kind of a penal action. So, as a shed owner, I will never ever, take that courage to get involved into an unethical practice just for the heck of making a few quick bucks. The project management, as I said, the project monitoring, genuinely everything, the date of the award, the party, the time duration, the status of progress, right? We have a system wherein the photograph of every shed, the photograph of washroom of every shed, the photograph of every electric cabin of every shed of all 32 sheds has been put on a compendium, is there on the software. Every stipulated date, the field officers down the line have to update the current status of that, the latest updated photograph, so that right from chairman to the minister, if the minister is traveling across a particular road from one district, from one capital to the other, and by any chance if he happens to go to the washroom of any shed, and if by any chance that is not up to satisfaction, the concerned field officer would be subjected to a severe panel action. Not only the field officer, it flows right up to the upward levels. Similarly, when it comes to HSE, health, safety, environment, the safety standards and all, I mean, rigorous inspections of all the sites, the QC index, the maintenance index, the safety index of all these locations are done, updated. There are dashboards, there are competitions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for your presentation on experience with Indian Oil Company. And we have learned a lot, few words, the responsibility, authority, and you mentioned about competency, about the board of directors. But the question is, maybe in Sri Lankan context, competence is there, whether they have authority. Then the question of survival. So I think we need to look at all those aspects. Maybe competent, I think most of the boards are competent, but in the political climate we are working, are they competent enough to take right decisions? Or whether they have authority to take right decisions. Unless we address those, despite we may be having competent boards and also the competent management, it's not possible to bring back those institutions to the profitability and operate in a viable manner. So we have come to the final presentation by Mr. Rohan Fernandu, Chairman Sri Lanka Telecom, who will tell about the Sri Lankan telecom story, which was again a state-owned enterprises. But in 1993 or 1996, I can't remember, it became a limited liability company and then listed in the Colombo Stock Exchange in 2003. So which is the other side of the story of CPC and CB, which is a more profitable organization. Of course, which has paid about around 900 million rupees as dividends in 2020 and expected dividend in the current year as well. So let's hear for the story of Sri Lanka Telecom from Mr. Rohan Fernandu, who will join us virtually. Probably our organizers would connect him to the forum. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My friend, Professor Lakshman Vatawala, President, Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka. It's a Henanayaka Bandara, Vice President of the CMA. Delegates from SAARC region management accounting bodies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. When Professor Vatawala invited me to address the CMA forum, comprising of a gathering of professionals, not only from Sri Lanka, but also from South Asian region, I was perplexed. But when I understood the subject, the transformation of SOEs, it gave me courage to discuss and share the experience of Sri Lanka Telecom, transformation from an SOE to a public-private partnership, and one of the best performing companies in the Colombo Stock Exchange. As the chairman of SLT Group, I am proud to stand before you to affirm that our company is a role model for nation building, maintaining its primary role as the national telecommunication provider whilst contributing handsomely to the exchequer in direct and indirect taxes, as well as handsome dividends on profits. We are gathered at an extremely crucial time to discuss how Sri Lanka as a nation can build back better by adapting to changes, however drastic they may be, in transforming some of the loss-making government-owned businesses from depoliticizing and making them self-sustaining profitable institutions to ease the burden on the state coffers, which itself, I believe, would help the cause of financial crisis we are currently experiencing. I believe I am qualified to speak on these subjects, taking lessons from a successful such venture, the story of SLT Mobitel. I stand before you proudly claiming that our 160-year-old company continues to make revenue for the country without being a burden to the government or its citizens. In 2021 alone, we contributed 19.3 billion rupees through direct and indirect taxes. Additionally, our shareholders, including the government treasury, reaped rich dividend of 3.5 billion rupees. We have instilled good governance and utmost discipline in our activities with sustainable goals through the ESG protocols. These are now widely practiced globally for integrating environmental, social, and governance frameworks, giving a true meaning to corporate social responsibility, or earlier practice CSR, by way of how we treat our planet, integrating with society for social justice, and of course, adhering to a strict code of governance on accountability and transparency. SLT, or Sri Lanka Telecom, began its operations as Ceylon Telegraph Company way back in 1858, that is over 160 years ago, as a state-owned national telecommunication service provider, with a monopoly, of course, on telephony connections. And its transformation from a state-owned entity to a public listed company happened in the mid-1980s. That's with the opening of the telco industry to the private sector. And today, there are 4 other major telco companies with foreign control operating with Sri Lanka Mobitel on a level playing field. I look at Sri Lanka and the opportunities before us. The demand for connectivity has never been more important to keep life moving forward. We have the best potential to transform our country to a smart nation, making innovative technology the backbone of every sphere of activity. Future-focused technology and diligently empowered citizens can change and grow the nation, not only to survive, but to thrive in the future. However, before we chart our course towards rebuilding and transformation, we must overhaul our archaic legacy systems, reduce inefficiency, and eliminate corruption and heavy operational costs. We also need to reduce waste in crucial sectors and services which continue to pose immense challenges for the nation's sustenance. Crises are generally associated with danger and destruction, with a heavy cost attached to it. But when we look back, history has shown us that crises can be useful for redirecting people to think differently, to unearth new ways of doing things by challenging the norm. In an institution, this can only be achieved by building trust amongst the staff, to get them on board, to accept and be partners in the process of transformation. This is exactly what we at SLT did during the last 3 years to prime our business with new strategies and cost-effective solutions. The brand unification of SLT and Mobitel in 2021 brought together the best services of fixed and mobile technology. As a result, we are now a formidable leader, offering a single-source service platform of superior products and services befitting the entire nation. This, in a company steeped in archaic beliefs, was possible only by getting all staff to believe in the change. This was the first stage of unification of two different corporate styles and saving several billion rupees in the process. That is within a short period of 2 years whilst achieving the set goals. Our unification and organizational transformation could not have come at a better time. At the same year, we saw a dramatic increase in the need for technology and connectivity solutions. This is primarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic, keeping people at home and restricting movement. Seeing this surge and understanding the demand of the future, we expanded our fiber network to 65,000 kilometers across Sri Lanka. And in a simple jargon, if you pull it out and wrap it around the globe, it will probably grow 2.5 times. We offered these fast and accessible broadband services to boost the digital capacity of the country. We also understood that with our experience and talented workforce, we were no longer a simple telephone company, but shifting fast into the technology field through the empowerment of digital platforms. We take pride in connecting the nation, linking over 850 government offices, covering all cities, even the smaller divisions and rural areas, and providing connectivity to other operators, including our competitor telcos, then other institutions, and of course, the general public. SLT Group also possesses the largest data centers in the country. And our long-standing partnership with global tech giants like Microsoft, Oracle, and VMware mean they have confidence in our fully equipped service provisions in hosting services for public and state institutions, as well as the large corporates and foreign investors. Our link to the world is accessed through undersea cables owned by a regional consortium of which SLT is a shareholder. SLT operates the only cable depot in South Asia out of the Goa Harbour for installations and repairs of undersea cables. Not stopping at that, we will soon reactivate the largest Earth satellite station in Paduka, established by SLT on the vision of late Sir Arthur C. Clarke to bring in the latest satellite technology and to serve as a backup to the undersea cable systems in case of a requirement. Also, we are investing over 18 billion rupees every year to improve and keep abreast with the most modern technology in the world. Now, these are all coming from our own funds, and not a single rupee is coming from the state coffers. What we see that out of crises emerge new and incredible opportunities, particularly if we are able to change or challenge traditional approaches and effect paradigm shifts. Importantly, measures taken to survive and in the crises are often seen to make an organization or even a country stronger and more resilient for the future events. If you take an example, the Asian debt crisis that happened in 1997-1919 period plunged the affected countries into deep recession, rapidly increasing unemployment, poverty, and social unrest. Although devastating for those countries and their people, especially in Indonesia and Thailand, the Asian debt crisis provided valuable financial lessons that would stand Asia in good stead for the global crisis 2.5 decades later. The crisis helped Asian countries build up their foreign exchange reserves as a buffer, maintain current account surpluses, and allowed their exchange rates to fluctuate. In the past 4 years, Sri Lanka has seen and faced unprecedented challenges. In 2019, April, we experienced the horrendous Easter Day terrorist attack, which had a tremendous impact on the country's tourism sector, which was one of the largest forex earners for us. Subsequently, the COVID-19 pandemic devastated the country's economy further. As you are aware, the toll the pandemic has exacted on the global economy has been significant. Many countries worldwide are still in the pandemic situation facing repercussions. During the pandemic and prolonged lockdowns that restrained mobilization of workforces crippled our economy in an unprecedented manner. These are the sad situations we faced during the last few years. In this void, of course, Sri Lanka's need for data and connectivity skyrocketed. This is with demand from the ordinary citizens on the street to schools and businesses. The need for the revolution came soon and more urgently, and fortunately SLT Mobitel unified to serve the nation and fulfill our duty to society. As it is, the telecom sector is enabling other industries to reduce their CO2 emissions through digitalization. How is it happening? That is by sheer transformation to commuting as opposed to communication. And some of the sectors that will greatly benefit are transport, agriculture, construction, and of course, energy. The broadest presence possessed by SLT Mobitel across the value chain offers unparalleled capacity to meet the needs of tech companies, large corporates, public and state institutions. With our capabilities and strong infrastructure across the country, we are geared to undertake this challenge and bring about the change the people of this country want to see. Our efforts are now focused on developing technological solutions to meet the challenges the country is facing whilst we continue investing in infrastructure development. Our effort will be further supported by our recently established R&D unit, teamed the Embryo, which is developing new devices and service applications in-house. And this we are doing by engaging the skills of young IT engineers. Our country faces key issues in several sectors. Currently, privatizing state institutions that are running losses of up to several $1 billion is a key topic of conversation among the government, economists, think tanks, and donors looking to reform the country's economy, taking simple solutions. But you and I know we are a resilient nation, and as hard as it may be to accept, this national crisis will hold opportunities for much needed reforms and transformation in Sri Lanka. Of course, selling assets may look the easiest at the economic pundits, some of whom have never run their businesses but preach from textbooks. And they believe in the bus term, picking the low-hanging fruit. If you take our company as an example, we did what we did by gaining confidence of the trade union and the staff on our fundamental principles: zero corruption, maximum efficiency, minimize waste, and of course, inclusiveness in management. Yes, these 4 principles to the fore, which kept our staff confident, content, and at peace. And we did not face any industrial disputes, strikes, or agitation during the past 3 years. Similarly, the rich assets of loss-making SOEs, if brought under a clean management of experienced corporate executives with absolutely no political interference, will turn around to profitability, and they will also attract credible and global investors. Take our overburdened transport sector, for instance, the railways. Railways hold multi-billion rupees worth of assets in fixed infrastructure. And of course, they are rolling stock. But how often do you see trains running on these rails? And at what speeds? Do we need to sell or restructure with the participation of staff and credible investment? Food for thought. The shortage of public transport during peak hours, overcrowding, congestion, lack of planning and coordination, of course, fuel wastage are dilemmas that need urgent attention. This is just one worrisome institution which can be transformed from a national burden to a crown jewel. Now look at the Sri Lanka judicial process, which can be improved vastly by bringing in digital platforms. That would deliver justice without delay. Our citizens do not have access to appropriate legal redress and equitable relief due to the high number of cases that are piled up and extending time taken for resolution. The system is overburdened with physical documents and lack of integration between relevant institutions for coordination. A large number of people waste days in court and still come away with limited information relating to their cases. All these can be resolved or improved by providing digital platforms, which our company is capable and offered. Our agri-value chain faces issues. So do our overly burdened healthcare sector. We need to understand the challenges and address these issues. Critical sectors and services must be transformed into efficient, transparent, and profitable entities. So in turn, they can transform people's lives. This is the true system change that we need today. Currently, state welfare is offered to all citizens, irrespective of rich or poor. This the country cannot afford. The government treasury doesn't have money to meet these demands, whereas the welfare offered should only be to the truly deserving sector, the poorest of the poor in the social strata. This can easily be implemented through a digital platform by identifying the poorest people and giving them a digital card for their needs. We are beset with issues and challenges. When crises are in motion, turning them into opportunities often requires new ways of seeing, thinking, and responding. SLT epitomizes how it can be done. SLT is the prime example of seizing opportunities and being able to bring impactful challenge and changes for the nation. In our transformation journey, we even look to other inspiring models in modern society, which has served us as examples of how technology can further improve the economic standing of our country. For instance, look at Singapore. By overhauling the city through technology, permeating every sphere of activity, Singapore became an intelligent island by the year 2000. Singapore's Smart Nation goals was aligned to the theme of increasing connectivity as a basic prerequisite, and the island nation embraced the E3A vision, meaning counting everyone, everything, everywhere, all the time. An all-encompassing Infocom Department Authority of Singapore was created, and they launched a series of innovative technology initiatives which form the infrastructural foundation of the smart nation. We believe Singapore can be treated as a test bed for smart city models, which may become widespread several years from now, when technology will rest at the heart of the urban systems. There again, look at the Telangana in India, a part of the country's vision to develop smart cities. In 8 years, Telangana attracted investments worth of 2.3 trillion rupees. To accelerate industrial growth in the state and to make Telangana a favored destination for investment, the state government had enacted the Telangana State iPass Act for granting approvals to the entrepreneurs at a single point within a set time limit based on a self-certification furnished by themselves. This is similar to what Sri Lanka had many years back under the Greater Colombo Economic Commission and later the BOI. But for reasons known to the political hierarchy, this system has been abandoned. What is important today is not just providing access to devices and networks, which will lead to digital inclusion, but instead ensure digital empowerment with aspirations to transform our nation into a digitally empowered society and a knowledge economy. This is where we figure as a transformer of the nation through tested digital platforms. If only the state realizes and believes that true governance is in keeping politics and administration clearly separated, as done in the past through the appointment of permanent secretaries and not ones who migrate with the ministers. Despite our company being transformed into a listed entity in the Colombo Stock Exchange, political interference continued to plague our company in the formative years. This was due to its unique composition of major minority stake being held by the Ministry of Finance. However, even with political interference, the company did not stagnate, but operated as a profitable public listed conglomerate, offering technology and connectivity solutions and ready-to-go platforms, advanced network backbone services, and digital infrastructure. This was primarily due to its enormous asset base and, most importantly, the resilience of the staff with so much experience who defied all odds and protected the company and its assets. I do believe Sri Lanka Telecom's journey, especially in the past 3 years, is a case study of an organization's adaptation and evolving despite being in the midst of challenging environments. The company's journey throughout the COVID-19 pandemic and economic crisis and the opportunities it presents for potential investors in Sri Lanka is a remarkable story. During this period, the company did not allow any form of politics to enter or influence its business and well maintained its stature as an apolitical corporate giant. Sri Lanka Telecom serves as a benchmark model for government institutions and lawmakers in the country as to how transformation must take place in state institutions to grow them successfully under public-private partnerships. In SLT's case, our transformation from being a state-owned enterprise to a profitable public company supporting digital transformation of our nation has happened, and it's sine qua non. SLT's evolution is one of the biggest success stories for the country. Our state-of-the-art infrastructure has been the fundamental backbone for the growth of the telecom services and has played a pivotal role in bridging the digital divide. We have connected the unconnected, facilitated widespread mobile connectivity, It has helped the country's visibility in global markets. Together with the company's enterprise service solutions, provide foreign investors with ready-to-move operations in the market and a robust technological foundation. Our mission is to move the country towards e-governance and digital commerce. Our propositions for critical services and sectors such as healthcare, education, transportation, agriculture, tourism, judiciary, banking, and finance will ensure our nation will survive this great financial debacle and thrive in the future. Moving forward, our group will further consolidate the service platforms with a target of unified operations under one roof. That will happen when our most modern, high-tech and green concept headquarters building is commissioned in a sprawling tech park in Colombo next year. We are expanding our fiber network coverage and we aim to reduce the carbon footprint. Solar, wind, hydro, and other renewable energy options are being pursued to migrate from fossil fuels to low-carbon renewable sources of energy. Our training centers with accreditation from the University of Hertfordshire will be empowered and upgraded to institution of technology to accommodate IT students for the local and global tech markets that would enhance the digital landscape of our country, which we badly need. With our island-wide vast network and ownership in lands and buildings, asset monetization with investors has already begun to improve the wealth and the business turnover of the group as opposed to stripping of assets in desperation. In short, we are proud to be labeled as the cash cow for the government treasury, and our model could be adopted to transform the loss-making state institutions into profitable entities without resorting to desperate moves of exit by one-time sale of assets. We at SLT are ready to assist the government in formulating strategy in the restructure of such SOEs with the involvement and cooperation of staff with least amount of disturbance to the business environment. This, I believe, is the real system change the people of this country hope for, and even the IMF and the World Bank suggest. Business sans politics in management. World over, politics can enormously impact businesses, especially in our region. How SLT leads the way in showcasing how corporates and institutions can thrive with the least political influence, that is our hallmark. To become tomorrow's innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders, our citizens need to be empowered with the digital skill and access to technology and markets that are essential to thrive in and increasingly digitalize the global, in an increasingly digitalized global economy. Government needs to find more nimble and effective means of delivering services and interacting with citizens. Businesses need to utilize digitally centered business models to connect with the millions of customers previously out of reach due to geography or low income. I am reminded of a quote made in 1959 by late John Fitzgerald Kennedy, one of my heroes at that time, where he stated that when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. President Kennedy's wisdom about a crisis yielding unique opportunities may be more important today than ever before. I sincerely hope that this conference will seize the moment, deliberate on various issues that need to be addressed, understand the opportunities before us, and come up with recommendations to recover and rebuild better. This is especially in rebuilding Sri Lanka, recognizing the need for adequate finance, significant investments in infrastructure, and fully utilize technology and innovations. SLT Mobitel will remain steadfast as the nation's long-term partner on this journey. My best wishes for a successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rohan Fernando, Chairman Sri Lanka Telecom, for your wonderful experience shared with us on Sri Lanka Telecom story. One important word is you didn't take any money from state coffers. Instead, you gave them money back. So before we conclude, let me invite Mr. J.M. U.B. Jayasekara, former Chairman, JMC, and Chairman, State Printing Corporation, and also Council Member, to deliver the closing remarks.
Good afternoon to you all. I have given the most difficult task today. I have been given only 5 minutes. Professor Lakshmana Ratawala, our able President, Sapa President Sen Nayaka, our Vice President, my Chairman, and all the panelists, my dear friends. By now, your brain is full, but stomach is dull. So, but anyway, listen to me few minutes. It's our duty to thank all four presenters. I have noted many things, but time does not permit me to continue. Because two success stories given by SLT Chairman and Manoj, how they have managed state organization and converted into profitable tax-paying institutions. But when you are listening to my two good friends, Electricity Board, Additional GM, and Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, General Manager Susantha, though they are incurring losses, they are doing public service. That may be the reason, but Susantha, try to cut down all subsidiaries. Don't ask, answer is yours. So, inefficiencies, corruptions, all those things should be eliminated. I was a teacher for 50 years, managing an education institute. When I start my old lectures, the first day, and during many times, I explain my students, be a true professional, be honest, be target-oriented, maintain professional ethics. So I am proud that majority of my students are here today as well. We have done that. We taught. But being true professionals, you have a big duty. Professor Wattabala and Alan Johnson and even the Stock Exchange Chairman, all three mentioned one thing. I would like to give a small equation. 1 is equal to 1. But you have to change now. 1 is equal to 2, we'll say. Same way, P is equal to P and I. First P is professionals is equal to public interest, PI. Because you have to maintain that. Because these two institutions, Electricity Board, just in front of, I am in front of your organization. About 50 years I was continuing there. Even I managed using a generator from 29. Because after LTT attack, I couldn't get electricity, but I am still using. I think, hope you will give us connection very soon. So whatever it is, now I am the chairman of State Printing Corporation. I assumed duties somewhere in February. So Honorable Minister, that time the Minister of Education, present Prime Minister, Honorable Dinesh Gunaradana, he gave me a call somewhere in February and told me, Jaye, there is a big problem in this particular corporation. This corporation is situated in close to my electorate, my hometown, Padukka. But this corporation, people are agitating that loss making, lot of frauds, corruptions, everything. You have to go and put the house in order. රජයේ මුද්‍රණ නීතිගත සංස්ථාව බාර දීලා මට කිව්වේ අවුරුද්දෙන් ලාභ පෙන්වන්න කියලා. අපි තොප්පි හදනකොට ඔළුව නැතුව මිනිස්සු උපදිනවා වගේ මං එහෙට යනකොට කඩදාසි නැහැ. Anyway, I also had to incur huge losses. But my task is next year on the Indian credit line, I'm going to get papers, and I have planned to earn a profit at least by 2023. That is my task. I gave an assurance, if I don't get a profit by 2023, because this year loss is unavoidable, uncontrollable, but I will resign from my post. That is my assurance. So the best thing is state corporations, state organizations, we have to run these organizations without giving burden to the people. Now, giving subsidies is a must. I also give subsidies. Mama Duppat Paul Dekaka to Udau Karuna, about 200 miles away from Colombo. One family, the father met with an accident. He is disabled. 4 girls are schooling. I give 5,000 rupees at the beginning of the month to buy season tickets and other things and their tuition fees and all. Another 5,000 mid of the month. And another poor family, all 3 are sick people. I give 5,000 rupees at the beginning and 15,000 the last day of the month. මම මාසේ මුලින් 5000ක් දීලා තව 15000ක් අන්තිම දවසේ යවනවා. Yesterday was a busy day for me. මට ඊයේ සල්ලි යවන්න බැරි වුණා. After my leaving from here, මේ අර ගෙදර ගෑනු ළමයා මට කෝල් එකක් දෙනවා. සර්ට තේරෙන්නේ නැහනේ. සර්ගේ සල්ලි තාම ආවේ නැහනේ අපිට. බලන්නකෝ අපි කන්නේ කොහමද? අපි බොන්නේ කොහමද? අපි බේත් ගන්නේ කොහමද? This is the crisis. When they are used to subsidies, they react like that. They think it is my duty to pay. Today itself, I send money through a person. They will get their money today, but one day delay, they were out. So, Sri Lanka is depending on many subsidies. People are used to all these subsidies and they don't realize the reality. But those 3 people, of course, they are really poor. But anyway, we will have to rethink. Electricity Board and the CPC both will have to think and hope that we will be able to convert profit-making bodies very soon. With that, I think all 4 speakers, they have done their duty. And though I have noted many aspects, all 4 speakers, they were talking about the capitals. FinMine, Husona. Financial capital, manufactured capital, Fin, Ma, In, intellectual capital, human capital, social capital, natural capital. That is how I remember those 6 capitals, FinMine, Husona. So you will not forget FinMine, Husona. All 4 institutions they explain how they manage their capital. That is true. But finally, all four have covered the digital capital as well. That is a new thing. But while managing capital, we all must get together to run state organization profitably. When I was allocated a corporation some time back, my task was to make a profit. Within 1 year, I made a profit. Next time, the local politician, senior person gave me a call, Mr. Jayasekara, මගේ ඉලෙක්ට්‍රේට් එකේ තියෙන ඔයා කෝපරේෂන් එකේ chairman ඔයා විතරයි මාව බලන්න ආවේ නැත්තේ කියලා. මං කිව්වා I don't go behind politicians. I don't like to go and see politicians. And he said, you are also a politician? Yes, I contested. But my thing is, I am the chairman of the corporation only. Because of these problems, now I have noted few things. Give me 1 minute. Now, for example, to make the corporation success, now look at they have proposed to change the Audit Act 1985. It took 33 years to pass the National Audit Act. It took 33 years. But proposal was in 1985. It was proposed, it was passed only 2018. Those delays are there. Now, second thing is, you remember, this president came into power, he put up a proposal that corporations should be appointed professionals only. Professionals only. Application call කරුවා. අපි ඔක්කොම දැම්මා. මෙතන ගොඩක් දිනෙත් දාන්න ඇති. අඩු වශයෙන් application එක ලැබුණාදවත් කියලා දැනුවේ නැහැ. No acknowledgement even. One day I went to the minister in charge of that huge document. මට බලපුවාම කිව්වා, he was one of my students. සර් අර තියෙන්නේ අර ඇප්ලිකේෂන් ටික අර ලොරි ලෝඩ් එකක් විතර තියෙන්නේ තාම ඒව බැලුවේ නැහැ කිව්වා. So professionals should be appointed to all the corporations to otherwise these corporations will not be able to run. Politicians are interfering. That is why I think Manoj and both SLT political interferences are very much low. Now look at now, I think Susanta, you are facing a huge problem. You need only 1,800, you have 5,000. That means you have 5,800, you have excess staff 4,000. So these are the problems we all face. The last point, trade unions should be directed to be watchdogs and they should be able, but now the trade unions are also influencing. Those are the factors. You may not be able to run your businesses profitably. So we have to change this culture. So we'll try and take much more initiatives. I think CMA, we have a big duty to do this. Okay? With that, thank you very much. All four presenters, you have done your duty. I'm sorry, though I have noted many things, I thank you again and again with my chairman also on behalf of TMA. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I am kind of grabbing the bull by the proverbial horn and concluding with inviting Professor Vatawala to quickly come across to the stage. We have tokens of appreciation set and ready to hand over to each of those folk on the stage. So we will do that.
So we begin with a token of appreciation to our chairperson for this session, Mr. JPR Karunaratne.
And the co-chair thereafter,
that's Mr. JMUB Jayasekara. Our speakers, Mr. Susanta Silva, Engineer Rohan Senaviratne, and of course, Mr. Manoj Gupta.
And for those of you who have nothing to do with what's going on the stage, lunch is over there. Run, because we have to be back at 2 o'clock.
Do enjoy, but compress your enjoyment into the shortest possible time.
Okay.
Yes, we heard references to...
Yeah, we have to start by 2 here. It's endorsed that we do. So please, don't wait.
We had references to the concerns about fraud. We'll find out more about how to avoid that in the next
Yes, indeed.
session.
That's the
At
next
2.
session.